So for the April tutorial, I decided I was going to use one of my own junk journals. So this is from my Quirky Journals series. And I wanted to show you how I use the junk journals that I create, and how you can use them. So each one of these is different. I'm going to pick a page because I already have an idea in mind of what I want to do. So I just want to show you, I think I'm going to use this. Okay. So one of the things that you could do so that this doesn't happen is you can clip your journal like this, the pages, and you can clip it back to hold it back. And I can get another, and it's kind of cold in my studio. I woke up very early today because I've been meaning to do a new tutorial, but it's just haven't found the time. So I said, let me wake up early before. So I'm working today right now in my indoor studio. My outdoor studio is a lot of times where I do my larger paintings, but for my journal for the journey, this is where I usually do the work. All right. So this magazine page is from like a 1970s magazine, so it's very thin. So I think I want to seal it with something to make it a little bit thicker. This one is a pretty thick page, so I think I'm good with that. But I'm going to go ahead and treat this page to make sure that it can hold some of what I'm going to put on it. All right, so what I'm going to use is some matte gel. I could use gesso. In fact, I usually do use gesso in my journals to thicken up the pages. But I think I'm out of the clear gesso. And so I did not want to make this page like opaque. Another thing I should have done, because I don't want this to stick to the other page, is usually I'll put wax paper. In fact, I'll do that because I want to show you kind of everything I normally do. All right, so to protect the other sheets from your work, you can use wax paper. This is, I think, from the dollar store. I usually have some scraps laying around from previous projects, and I don't throw them away because I can reuse them. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And it's just to better protect the pages underneath, unless you don't care and you want to glue the pages together. But in this case, I don't. So I should have done this before I started putting the matte gel, but I didn't, so bear with me. The idea is for it to kind of not stick. Okay, so there we go. So now if I get any matte gel over the page, it really won't stick because of the wax paper. But it should dry up clear. All right, on this side, I could put some, but I don't want to put any of this. So I'm going to let this side dry, and I think I do want to maybe add a little gesso to this side. So let me go find some. Okay, so I did have clear gesso. I guess I was just starting off very lazy and not wanting to go into my studio outside. So this is clear gesso, this is a small bottle, and I'm just going to put it just a little bit. I keep all sorts of plastic containers that come in the packaging because they come in handy for these kind of projects. For pouring glue on, for pouring gesso. One of the things that I want to tell you is when you use matte gel medium, it is like a glue. So you want to make sure that you really rinse your brush before you go on or before you store it away. So you're probably wondering, should I have put wax paper underneath this sheet? Yes, I could have. But I don't want to put the matte gel, the gesso everywhere. I just want to leave some spots with gesso and some not, okay? So basically for this lesson, we're going to be creating, I guess I should explain it to you a little bit so that when you're looking through your junk journal, and if you don't have a junk journal, you can just get regular watercolor paper or regular mixed media paper, or just some paper that has a little bit of thickness, since we're going to be, unless you want to use really regular paper and then just add some gesso to make it thicker. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting over it. Another thing you can do is find an old book page that you know, from a book that's maybe discarded or you can't really use for reading, or a magazine page that has houses or cities, because we're going to be working with that city houses concept for this project. So now I'm going to take this and dry it with my little blower so that I can move on to the next step. And I'm just going to dry both pages now. Okay, so I've decided that I want to add, since I did find my clear gesso, I do want to add the clear gesso to this very thin, very old magazine page, because I kind of want the page to be a little sturdier and more resilient. And it's a little compromised because the paper's so old. So, you know, some people might not mind that, but I'm concerned that, I think this was from an old Time magazine from the 1970s, that it might tear when I add some paint with water. So I added gesso, clear gesso to this side, and I'm going to dry it. And now I'm going to apply it on the back because I really want the page to be stronger. Treat the back so that the page is a little bit thicker. Another alternative, if I didn't really care about the images in the back, or I didn't really want to use the back part, is I could have just glued a piece of cardstock to the back and call it a day, or glued that to the back sheet. But I'm not sure if I want to use this back for something. So for now, just strengthening the page. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start laying the paint on. And we're going to lay the paint on our spread in kind of squares. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. And here I just have this old food container that I had used for a project last week with my grandkids, and I just have different paint colors. I just added some more red, some green, some purple. I have some orange. Some of these were colors from last week, and I'm just gonna use a mix of colors. So I switched out my brush, so I don't want to use the same brush that I use for glue, and I'm gonna start probably here. And this paint is kind of thick, but I want to kind of have a lighter coat. So if it's too light, I mean, if it's too dark, I want to be able to see some of the image behind it. So some of these are craft paints and some of these are acrylics. So now what I did is I just took the brush and I wet it a little bit. And I'm just kind of like brushing it over. And if you can see, you could start seeing the buildings in the background. So that's a good square. So now I'm moving on, and I'm gonna get, I think I'm gonna get some of this orange. And I just wanna do kind of like almost a grid with large squares. And yeah, I should have probably covered the bottom page. But sometimes I like that because I can use whatever happens on the other page will sometimes spark an idea for the next page. You know, some of that paint. So I'm taking some of this orange, brushing it down. If it's a little too dark, I'm just rinsing my brush. I have a little water tank here on the side, and I am brushing it down. The gesso helps give it a little bit of grit so that the paint can kind of hang on. Let me see if this blue is still, yeah, it's still working. I wasn't sure if it was dark. Okay, so this blue is very dark, so I am definitely going to have to water it down. But I don't want to add so much water that it will cause the paper to break. So I got to really, there we go. That's good enough. And that gesso helps it to okay. Now, if it's too dark, like I feel like the blue is still too dark, I'm gonna just dab a little bit. And I kind of like that effect, so I'm gonna leave it like that for now. Let's do some purple here. And once again, I feel like some of it is too dark. So I'm just rubbing it on, and then I will take and put some water to the brush. You don't want to let it dry, because once it's dry, then it's going to be hard to thin the paint out. So you have to kind of do it when it's still wet. I'm just trying to play around with the camera angle because I noticed that on the screen there's a lot of glare. All right, now I'm gonna, what color haven't I used? I haven't used the red yet. So I'm cleaning my brush. And I kind of like how the image is peeking through the back. And now I think I want to repeat the sequence with the green. So you can use, see what happened, I didn't clean my brush completely. So I have some weird greenish red. But we'll go with it. Ooh, we'll go to green now. So I can go with green all the way down if I wanted to, or I can leave a little space to add another color, but I think I'm gonna just go all the way down with this green. And it's very dark for me, so I'm trying to water it down. Yeah, I kind of want the image to be peeking through. So you have to kind of thin out the paint enough that the image could still be seen through. Obviously up here you see it more, so I'm gonna still just take, I have some tissue always on my work desk here just to blot water, pick up paint. If I'm watercoloring, just comes in handy to have it just right by your table. So now I'm adding some orange to keep the sequence. And if you're worried about getting it on the back of the cover, I mean, part of the beauty of junk journals is when you're working in it and as you work on it through time, they'll get all full of paint in different pages, and it's like they all become like all the pages become one big happy family, and it just flows better, and the junk journal just gives it like life. My video keeps stopping because since it's so early, I have all these alarms going off to wake me up, but I'm already awake. But it keeps pausing it. All right. So just gonna blot that a little bit. And now we're gonna go to this side. So on this side, I don't think that I wanna use all of these colors. I think I wanna pick one color to be the main color over here. So I'm gonna pick the red. You can pick whatever color you want. Remember, depending on what page you have on the other side, this for me was my very delicate, very thin page that I had to coat. First I coated it in matte gel medium. Then I decided to strengthen it some more with clear gesso. And then I painted the back with clear gesso. So just gotta kind of take it easy on this page when it comes to adding stuff. Adding paint shouldn't be an issue. It's more like if I apply too much water to this page, it might be an issue. Since I really don't care about the words on this page, I don't mind covering them up more. In this case, sometimes you'll have a page on the other side of your spread that you really want to keep a piece of it, or you like what it says, or you like a part of the picture. And so you might want to paint around it or use that as part of your composition. But in this case, I'm not really caring about this at all, so I don't mind because I'm probably going to end up covering it up anyway. All right, so now we have our painted background spread. I'm going to let it dry before I continue. Okay, so I just want to show you a close-up of what the pages look like right now. They're dry. I still have it clipped back. All right, now we're going to work on this side. And this is going to be what you feel more comfortable with. Because we are going to be drawing different designs on the outside, and on the center, we're going to draw a house. So you can use black paint like I'm using, or you can use black Sharpie if you don't feel comfortable using black paint. But I just want to show you because I don't want to overthink this. So I'm just going to draw basic shape of a rectangle. So that's the first shape I'm going to draw. And then I'm going to make some sort of a, I don't know, roof overhead. Haven't really decided what kind of building it is. I think it's going to be maybe like a little cottage. No, not sure. Okay, and then I'll put some windows. And maybe a little door. And I'm using sort of this brush is, I think it's Artist Loft. It's from Michael's. These are some of the cheaper brushes that sometimes I use for these kind of things. It's not very thin. You can go with a thinner brush if you feel more comfortable. But when I'm journaling, I just kind of want it to flow and I don't want to really overthink it. So that is the house structure. And then what I want to do is on the sides, I'm making maybe like little windows. And they're going to go along like a border. along the edge. And the beauty of this, or what I'm really liking, is that I can still see through that background image of whatever was happening. And you can use this technique with all sorts of vintage papers, and I think it would look fabulous. Because you're seeing like the other dimension that's happening below. So we're just going around. They don't have to be the same size. It's not like you're not getting graded. Just have fun with it. Kind of making these. Okay. And now in each one, I want to kind of make some sort of design. Like this one can have polka dots. Maybe I'll pick like 3 designs or 4 designs and I'll repeat them. This one has like dashes. This one can have vertical lines going down. Let's pick one more. And this one can have sort of circles. And then I'll start again. Dots, dashes. I'm gonna go this way. Lines, circles, dots, dashes, lines. What I'm going to do for this side is I am going to look through a magazine and find a picture of a house or something and cut it out and glue it. But for now, I'm just going to make like a big sort of, like a frame. And that way, whatever I glue, I can glue it inside there. And I could continue all of these designs, or I can pick one of the designs from this side as the edge here, and that kind of will tie in the 2 pieces together. So I think I'm going to pick the dashes. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever you want to pick. And I'm just some of my dashes are thicker than others. This is what's fun about journal, like junk. I don't want to keep saying junk because it's really not junk. It's little bits of the past that you've kept around or found and put together. But that's what's fun about these journals, is that you're repurposing old materials that might have been thrown away, and you're creating art with it, and you don't have to take it so seriously. And sometimes something that I create here will spark an idea in one of my journals for something else. And sometimes I get really addicted to a certain style, and I'll keep doing it over and over again. And it's just very freeing. All right, so I'm gonna stop right here and let it dry. And in the meantime, while you're drying, you can look for images of a house or a building that you want to put on the opposite side. And then I'm going to, once this is dry, I'm going to take a small marker and I'm going to do some detailing, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, so I went through my magazines and I found this little house. I'm gonna cut it out. So once you've found the house or the building that you like, cut it out. And so that will go here, but I kind of want to trim it some more because I want it to fit in the rectangle. Okay. Although I think it might look cool to see some of the red, so I might cut the shape around the top. You know, it's all about exploring what feels right to you, what you think aesthetically looks good, what brings you joy when you're doing this. I love working with paper and paint. Something about it I just really enjoy. Also fabric. All right, so yes, I kind of like that shape that you can see it. So I am going to glue this down. To glue it down. In this case now is I'm going to put match out over this magazine that I'm gluing just to strengthen it some more. It doesn't bother me that there's a little man peeking through a window. I kind of like it. If not, I could paint over it and put a picture of myself or something else, but I like it. So I'll leave it like that. And we're almost done with this journal page. I wanted to keep it very simple, but I did say that I did want to add some designs. So I have a Sharpie here. I'm going to just take a Sharpie. Let's see how it works here. And in the windows, I'm just going to make some little details, like a little window shade with a little pull string. You know, don't use a Sharpie until it's completely dry. And then I can maybe make, like, if this was a curtain over here. Because if not, it'll ruin your Sharpie if you get paint on it when it's still wet. Okay, and the door can have like a doorknob, and then maybe I want to add like little curved scalloped, shingles to the roof. And don't really want to add too much to the house because I really like that I can see people through it. But maybe I want to just do a little bottom railing right here. If there's like a little tiny gate in front. And I could do a little chimney. Now, I'm noticing that obviously the Sharpie is not as dark as my black paint. So if it really bothers me, I will get black paint and just cover over it. But it doesn't really bother me, so I'm good. I am good. All right, so here now you can leave it like this, or you can add white, but I kind of wanted just to use black paint on this, so I didn't want to like embellish it too much. And now I think I just want to find like a really like a cute little quote or something to tie up these pages together about houses or community or buildings. and glue it down here. You can also write on it. I do want to show you something else because I never know when to stop. If you have a Stabilo, love this pen, you can go around the edges. You don't have to do this. I want to show you. This is one of my favorite things to use on journals. You can go around some of the edges that you want. And then what you do, make sure that these brushes are clean before I ruin this whole thing, is with the Stabilo, you can just brush on it and you get that like smudge. So if you want to like create like a shadow effect around the house, you could do that. You don't have to, like I said. I think maybe I do want to ground it a little bit, so I want to do a little shadow underneath the house. And see, you just rub it with water, and it's almost like a watercolor pencil. I think it kind of is a watercolor pencil, but you can write on anything pretty much with it, so it comes in very handy. And if you put too much, you can just blot it out. Maybe I want to darken a little bit the curtains. I'm not even rubbing it on anymore. It's still on the edge of my brush. And then if I want to add, I can actually pick up and just put some of the Stabilo that was down here into the shingles if I want to darken the roof a little bit. And Stabilos really come in handy when you do magazine clippings. Like putting them around the edge of the clipping gives it like a cool effect. And I'm not sure if it's going to work here because I think it's still a little wet, the matte gel, but we'll try it. Just rubbed it on this side. Yeah, it's working. It just gives it a little bit of dimension behind your clipping, whatever you glued on. Gives it a little bit of like a deeper depth to it, like it's in the background. I kind of want more of that here along the side of the house. And you can always pick up a little bit of it if you feel like it's too much. Now, the idea for this design actually came from a children's book that I had bought a while ago. It was in a discarded pile, and the book was in bad condition, but some of the pages were still pretty good, and I really liked what the artist did, and I wish I could remember the name of the book and the artist. But they did illustrations sort of like drawing on colored paper. And so I got the idea for this from that book. And I decided to do that idea, but on top of a paper illustration, like a magazine or a book print already. All right, so now the only thing that's missing is my little quote, and we're done. So I'm going to go search for a quote. All right, so I went to the internet and I found this really cool quote online that was perfect actually for what's happening in my picture with this guy peeking out. And it says, "A man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it," by George Moore. So I retyped it on my computer very quickly, and because I'm putting it in the journal, I wanted to make sure it's a font that I could read. So I really like American typewriter font because you can do it bold or regular. I like using that font because I also feel like sometimes it gives it a vintage feel. So now I'm just trimming it down, and I think when I retyped it, I printed it in a size 12 font. So we'll see if it fits. If not, I'm going to have to shrink the font and retype it. But I think that will fit perfectly. I could trim it a little bit more. I can kind of cut around the edges to block it out a little bit more. It's up to you. Or I could just slap it like that. All right. And so now I'm going to go back and get my matte gel. And put it on the back. And I'll go ahead and add a little matte gel on top. This kind of seals the paper. So it's a good habit to do when you're gluing down paper after, if you don't want to add anything else to it. What I am going to do is once it's dry, I'm going to add a little bit of the Stabilo around it to give it a cool effect. If you see that I have paint all over, I have an art sweater. I promise that I do wash it weekly, but it's full of paint and I use it when I'm in the studio because there's no sense in damaging a new sweater. So let me take this and dry it so we can be done. Now that it's dry, I'm going to, I could leave it like that, but I like to always, when I'm gluing down coats to paper, I like to run the Stabilo around the edges and then wet it a little bit. That's just, I think it looks kind of cool. And I hope that you've enjoyed this little lesson tutorial. I don't know if it's a lesson, but just spending time together creating. I'm hoping to do more tutorials. I just have to organize my life a little bit more because as a former teacher, I really do love to teach. This is what I love to do. I love to create, but I also love to share my ideas and teach other people. So if you've enjoyed this lesson, please leave a comment below on my YouTube. You can also reach out to me if you have any questions. I think my YouTube has my social media link for my journal Instagram account, which is at Journal for the Journey with the number 4. And yeah, and if there's anything else you'd like to see me create, please drop me a line. And if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, go ahead and do so. There's a link on my Instagram account for that, because that way whenever I create any tutorial videos, I send it to the people in my newsletter first, and they get access to the full video. Sometimes I only put part of the video online. Also, when you're a newsletter recipient, you also get some behind the scenes information of what's going on in my life and some special projects that you can do at home. And every so often I'll do free downloads. So yeah, it's a win-win. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed yourself doing this. I would love to hear from you if you've tried it. And if you do try it, please send me a picture. You can send it to me through social media. I'm still learning to see how you can upload it through YouTube. I don't think that's a thing though. But anyway, this is our home journal spread. And I really like how it turned out. Bye guys. Have a great time creating.